trusted news source, ABC6 News at Noon.
And good afternoon to you folks. Thanks so much for joining us today for ABC6 News at Noon. I'm Casey Kentz, just into the newsroom at noon following some developing news here today. You're looking live into Providence right now. Branch Avenue. Take a look. The FBI, IRS, and multiple police departments emptying boxes from Accurate Converter. We do have a crew at the scene here working to learn more. We're going to update you on ABC6 News first at 4. Again, the FBI, IRS, and multiple police departments emptying boxes from Accurate Converter in Providence at this hour. We'll keep you posted on that situation. Live look outside right now. You just saw a short time ago. It's a little bit higher up, though, with our ABC6 Sky Cam, and you do see still dealing with the overcast skies. A little bit of rain still lingering around out there today as well. It's still cold, too, and Nick, I know you're tracking a lot for us today, certainly regarding today, but the coming days as well.
Yeah, right, and it's a damp, drizzly, cool day today. I'm really tracking today the dew point temperature. I'm going to tell you why in just a second. The dew point is 34, temperature 35. The temperature cannot go below the dew point. Because they're 1 degree apart, the air is pretty saturated. So we have drizzle right now. We have a wind out of the north-northeast. And that's playing a part in our weather today, too. So if we look at these dew point temperatures here, watch what happens. Here's noontime. We go through 5 o'clock. Notice how they get just a little lower here. 28 in Smithfield, 31 in Providence, along the shore, close to that 32. And then if we go to 9 o'clock, again, the shoreline hasn't changed. Inland is still 28 in Smithfield, 31 in Providence. So what I'm thinking is the temperature is going to fall a couple of degrees. It won't take much, 2-3 degrees, and we'll get a little bit of icing in Providence County. I don't think it'll be much of an issue for southern portions of it on the south coast as we go forward. Because look, after 10 o'clock, the dew points start to rise overnight. A few degrees. So by tomorrow morning, we should be okay, although there still may be a few icy spots tomorrow morning. Temperatures right now, upper 30s along the shoreline. We have the gale watch offshore. We have a winter weather advisory in effect until 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's because it is going to stay cold till about midnight. So there's a little lag time there. They usually give you a little pad on that forecast, so they extend it till 4 o'clock in the morning. There's the active radar right now. Not a lot happening, but look at the two directions that the precipitation's moving in. The key is the low-level precipitation. Notice it's coming in off the Atlantic with that northeasterly surface wind. So the surface wind is keeping us in the drizzle, and it's also draining in those lower dew points from the north just a little bit. There's not much precipitation to deal with off to the west. There's just a lot of clouds. So it's afternoon and evening, maybe a little bit of sleet for Providence County, but freezing rain and drizzle. Temperatures will fall from the lower 30s to the upper 20s by evening. Icy pavement possible for the Friday morning commute, and the Arctic air is returning. That's the big deal that I'll talk about coming up with the extended forecast, is the cold and the potential for snow coming up. So there's your day planner. Be careful if you have to travel this evening and allow yourself some extra time. There will be some icy spots, especially in Providence County tonight.
Certainly, Nick. Thank you for that. Moving now to an ABC6 News update, and a deadly shooting spree in Florida that we are following today left 3 people dead in Orlando, including a 9-year-old girl and a TV news reporter. Police arresting a 19-year-old man. He's expected to be charged in all 3 deaths. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest today.
A day-long shooting spree in Orlando, leaving 3 people dead and others wounded.
QB advisory, multiple gunshot wound calls in the Hialeah Street area of the previous call.
The first victim, a 38-year-old woman, shot and killed around 11 a.m. on Wednesday. A TV news crew reporting on that shooting, then becoming the target themselves hours later. A local reporter and photographer from Spectrum News 13 shot while simply doing their jobs.
At some point around 4 o'clock, he returns to the scene. He goes to the vehicle where the news media people are at. He shoots both the people from News 13.
Reporter Dylan Lyons died from his injuries. He was engaged to be married and would have turned 25 years old next month.
Dylan was a go-getter. He always wanted to learn, was always eager to get better. It's so tragic and heartbreaking that family after family has to deal with the outfall of all of this.
Authorities say the gunman, identified as 19-year-old Keith Melvin Moses, later walked into a nearby home and shot a mother and her 9-year-old daughter. The The 9-year-old died. Mom is in critical condition.
He has a lengthy criminal history to include gun charges, aggravated battery and assault with a deadly weapon, burglary, and grand theft charges. No one in our community, not a mother, not a 9-year-old, and certainly not news professionals, should become the victim of gun violence in our community.
Spectrum News has released a statement as their newsroom copes with this tragedy, saying in part, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of our colleague and the other lives senselessly taken. This is a terrible tragedy for the Orlando community." Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
There are just no words. That is awful. Some local stories making headlines this afternoon. Cumberland police identified the passenger who was killed in a head-on crash Monday. Police say the driver went in the wrong lane after suffering a medical episode. 67-year-old Marie Mollicone of Woonsocket was seriously injured, taken to the hospital, and later died there. The driver and passengers of the other vehicle were taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Police in Providence investigating a stabbing at a Shell gas station on Elmwood Avenue. This happened around 9:15 last night. Workers at the gas station telling ABC6 News that a man came into the store asking to use the phone and call 911. Police say the victim had cuts on his hands and was treated when first responders got to the scene. There's no word yet on if there were any arrests. Cranston police say they arrested 2 teenagers for spray painting signs at the St. Mary Catholic School in Cranston. The 2 signs were vandalized sometime Monday. Both were vandalized with red and black paint with pentagram symbols. Police combed through surveillance footage and tracked down 18-year-old Carmina DeSanto's car. DeSanto later admitted to vandalizing the signs. The second person arrested was identified as a 17-year-old girl from Cranston. A Warwick School Committee member accused of drunk driving and assaulting a police officer. This happened over the weekend near City Hall. Warwick police telling ABC6 News Karen Backus was seen driving, quote, erratically by a witness. She was taken to the Warwick Police Department headquarters, and police say she ignored orders to stay seated. Backus is then accused of hitting an officer when she was being taken back to her seat. She was charged with refusal to submit to a chemical test and simple assault. 2 Rhode Island state reps introduced legislation to create a driving license designation for those with autism. The legislation would require the DMV and Rhode Island Police Chiefs Association to design a license and special markings and decals for license plates. Blue envelopes with information to help communicate between officers and the drivers would also be drawn up. Officials say the program would not be mandatory for those on the spectrum. Both versions, though, were sent to committee. Dartmouth town officials will hold another informational meeting about septic system upgrades. This will be tonight. If the state adopts new regulations related to septic systems, residents along Buzzards Bay, including in Dartmouth, could face between $10,000 and $50,000 in cost to upgrade their system. That meeting will also review new watershed permit regulations. It starts at 6 o'clock tonight. It'll be at the Dartmouth Middle School. And still to come today at noon, how Russian President Vladimir Putin is responding to President Biden's wartime trip to Ukraine as the president closes out that visit. And disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdaugh set to take the stand today in his own defense in his murder trial. How much time he faces behind bars, we'll tell you coming up. Welcome back to the war in Ukraine now. And in an exclusive interview with ABC News, President Biden responding to whether the U.S. is less safe now that Russia is pulling out of a nuclear arms pact. It comes as Moscow is touting its expanding nuclear arsenal. ABC's Lindsay Watts in Washington today with the very latest on rising tensions.
Mr. President, thank you.
In an exclusive interview with ABC World News anchor David Muir, President Biden seeking to ease fears that Russia is preparing to use nuclear weapons. It comes after Russian President Putin announced Russia will suspend participation in the only remaining nuclear arms treaty with the U.S.
What's your message to Putin on that?
It's a big mistake to do that, not very responsible. But I don't read into that he's thinking of using nuclear weapons or anything like that.
The nuclear agreement implements caps on the number of nuclear weapons deployed by both the U.S. and Russia, and also allows for inspections of nuclear sites. Putin says he's temporarily suspending participation due to U.S. support for Ukraine following Russia's brutal invasion almost 1 year ago.
Does it concern you when he says something like this, and are we less safe?
Well, look, I think we're less safe when we walk away from arms control agreements that are very much in both parties' interest and the world's interest. But I've not seen anything, we've not seen anything where there's a change in his posture and what they're doing.
That interview happening in Warsaw as Biden wrapped up his historic trip to Eastern Europe. The president vowing to defend NATO countries from Putin's aggression and pledging continued support for Ukraine during a surprise visit to Kyiv. Putin, meanwhile, is touting Russia's expanding nuclear arsenal in a new address. He's claiming the country's most advanced long-range missile, reportedly capable of carrying 12 nuclear warheads, will go on combat duty later this year. And despite that big talk from Putin, we know that Russia carried out a test of an intercontinental missile before Biden's trip to Eastern Europe. According to U.S. officials, they believe the test was a failure. Lindsay Watts, ABC News, Washington.
And more still to come today on ABC6 News at noon, including the return of winter weather. Nick has your full forecast. That's next.
And now, your ABC6 Storm Tracker weather with meteorologist Nick Morganelli.
And good afternoon. We're starting talking about snowfall here, and we've got just under 5 inches. We had actually a trace of snow yesterday. That was it. So that's not measurable. So we're still at 4.9 out of the 37 on average. And again, we're a very lean snowfall year, the #1 spot so far. And we look at the current snowpack across New England. There's a lot up north. You go up to Maine, you find 3, 4, 5 feet of snow in the crown of Maine. Northern New Hampshire and Vermont, about 1 to 2 feet of snow. And here in Rhode Island, not much at all. And a snow forecast as we go forward next 24 hours. We put a few more inches up to the north in northern sections of New England, but nothing here. That may change as we get to early next week, as you'll see in the 7-day forecast. But let's focus on tonight and tomorrow, because we've got Arctic air coming in, and we have some icy travel possible this evening and during the overnight hours as temperatures drop just a few degrees. We've already had some sleet and freezing rain, freezing drizzle up in northern parts of Providence County, from Burrillville to Smithfield to Woonsocket, and that will continue. South Coast shouldn't be a problem at all for any of this icy travel. And it's a very cold, dry Friday evening to Saturday morning with wind chill factors approaching 0. I'll show you that too. And then we're tracking a potentially significant snowstorm next week. Storm tracker radar doesn't show too much here. And you know, radar has a very difficult time picking up drizzle. And so there's probably drizzle everywhere across the state of Rhode Island right now, and it's just not picking it up. We also do have some light showers from time to time that's coming in on this northeasterly wind, and we do have a winter weather advisory in effect through tonight till about 4 o'clock in the morning. National Weather Service issuing that for the icy potential with that freezing drizzle. Look off to the west, there's some clearing back in here. And we'll eventually get into that tomorrow. So a little low pressure system sliding in tonight. That will enhance the effect here. We may get a little batch of freezing drizzle, freezing rain tonight, maybe a couple of sleet pellets mixed in too. But it's this cold front right in here that means business. Frigid Arctic air behind it. This is tonight at 11 o'clock. We go to tomorrow morning. It's right on our doorstep. That low pulls away. The front is north of us. We have our warmest temperature of the day tomorrow morning. Then it crashes through here and the temperatures crash with it. We've got a north wind, northwesterly wind, and Arctic air moves in with high pressure to start the weekend with sunshine, but will cloud up later in the weekend. So look at the wind chill. 1 o'clock tomorrow, near 20. If you have evening plans in the early evening, 6 o'clock, we're down to about 15 for a wind chill. And then we get to the single numbers by 11 o'clock. You have late night Friday plans? Yeah, you need to bundle up for January midwinter cold. And Saturday morning, maybe you have to head out and do some errands or some shopping. It's going to feel like it's 0 out there. So really cold stuff for the wind chill, and it relaxes as we get to the afternoon on Saturday. 30 tonight. We're going to drop the temperatures just a couple of degrees from where they are now. So if you're 35 or above, you should be okay. Light freezing drizzle. And tomorrow, 34, the wind chill from the 20s dropping to the single numbers. So all day long, it gets colder and colder and colder as the day goes on. Saturday is a frigid start, cold finish. Sunday, we bring in clouds. It's Monday night into Tuesday. We're tracking a storm. It does look like it has the potential to develop into a coastal nor'easter that could give us snow. And is that March? Yeah, that's pretty much the first day of March.
That wasn't the computer model you were showing me earlier today, was it?
In like a line? Yes, it was.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, we'll check back in, Nick.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Still to come today at noon, the impact Alec Murdaugh's surviving son may have on his murder trial through his testimony. The latest from the courtroom next. Welcome back. Trending now, the trial of Alec Murdaugh and the defense hammering away at the crime scene, suggesting investigators did a poor job collecting evidence. They also hinted they might put Murdaugh on the stand. ABC's Eva Pilgrim has more.
This morning, all eyes on the witness stand as the defense weighs whether to call Alec Murdaugh to testify in his own case.
Good morning, Your Honor. We are discussing with Mr. Murdaugh his right to testify.
Murdaugh's team teasing a possible appearance, but trying to limit the scope of the prosecution's questioning. The judge shutting them down.
I am not going to issue an order in advance limiting the scope of cross-examination.
Now, as the defense decides, a new interview with the former girlfriend of Alec's late son, Paul, making headlines.
Like our energies kind of matched.
Morgan Dowdy telling her story as part of the Netflix miniseries Murdaugh Murders, A Southern Scandal.
We would just have fun, just the two of us, and we would just goof around. So I think it was his playful personality that brought me into him at first.
Dowdy sharing the ups and downs of dating the youngest Murdaugh, alleging alcohol brought out a sometimes abusive side, and detailing how life changed after the deadly boat crash Paul was blamed for, and then the murders of Paul and his mother, Maggie.
I've hit a lot of low points. You're trying to cope, but you're also trying to be a regular 20-year-old, going through all the suppressed emotions and the stuff that I try to forget. I think that's strength.
In court, Alec's friend and former law partner Mark Ball speaking about Paul on the stand.
He was just a good kid. Now, did he do some devilish things? Absolutely.
Ball also testifying how angry he was at Alec for the alleged financial crimes that cost their firm millions, but saying he's not convinced he's a murderer.
I'm mad as hell. I mean, you just don't know how mad I am. But on the other hand, I'm not saying that because he did that, he's done what he's accused of.
This as Murdaugh's team tries to paint a picture that the crime scene wasn't well kept, so evidence from it can't be trusted.
They do an adequate job.
I don't believe so.
Okay. And that's your expert opinion?
Correct.
Okay.
That much more could have been done.
The defense expert pointing out that while Paul was covered with a sheet, that sheet wasn't preserved or tested, and that investigators on the scene that night weren't wearing booties to avoid contamination.
And the defense has said their case would be shorter, 5 to 7 days. We are currently on day 4. Eva Pilgrim, ABC News, Walterboro, South Carolina.
Nick's coming back with one final check of that forecast next. Stay with us. Welcome back. Let's send it over to Nick. Nick, what are we looking at today, bud?
Yeah, we got afternoon drizzle. Just to recap here, the evening freezing rain, freezing drizzle as temperatures fall just a few degrees. So there could be some icy pavement tomorrow morning. Get up a little early, tune in here, 5 o'clock. We'll let you know if what the roads are looking like. Arctic air returns Friday evening through Saturday morning. So there's your day planner. Just plan on some icy travel tonight, especially Providence County. It will not be an issue for the South Coast. So I-95 should be fine for this evening's commute. It gets brutally cold Friday night and Saturday morning. Wind chill near 0. Sorry.
Burr. That's all right, Nick. Thank you for joining us today, folks. We do appreciate it. The news continues first at 4, and for news and weather anytime, check us out at abc6.com. And Casey Cants, have a great rest of your Thursday.